The Galactic Council chambers buzzed with the familiar hum of translation devices as representatives from 47 different species gathered for the monthly primitive species evaluation. Ambassador Zixtal of the Vorthak Empire adjusted his crystalline breathing apparatus and pulled up the holographic display showing a small blue planet in the outer rim. Territories. Next on our agenda, his voice resonated through the chamber's acoustics. We have Sol 3 designation Earth, the dominant species calls themselves humans. A collective chuckle rippled through the assembly as images of primitive bipedal creatures appeared before them. The hologram showed humans in their natural habitat, some wielding crude stone tools, others huddled around fires painting on cave walls with berry juice and charcoal. Ambassador Kretha of the Melody Federation leaned forward, her 6 eyes blinking in amusement. They still use combustion for warmth and cooking? How quaint. Look at their tools, scoffed Commander Olnex from the Hegemony Worlds, pointing a scaled appendage at the display. Sharpened rocks tied to sticks. My larvae create more sophisticated implements during playtime. The laughter grew louder as more images cycled through. Humans hunting massive beasts with nothing but spears, living in caves, fighting over territory with clubs and crude weapons. To the assembled galactic powers, it was like watching particularly amusing primitive entertainment. Dr. Veltarn, the Council's chief xenobiologist, pulled up additional data. Our long-range sensors indicate they have not yet discovered electricity, spaceflight, or even basic metallurgy beyond crude bronze work. They appear to be locked in what we would classify as early primitive development stage 7. Savage little things, aren't they? Commented Regent Mordex of the Silicon Collective, his mechanical voice carrying undertones of disgust. Notice how they resolve disputes with violence. Completely uncivilized. The Earth surveillance footage showed tribal conflicts, humans wielding primitive weapons against each other in brutal combat. The galactic representatives watched with a mixture of fascination and revulsion as these Stone Age creatures displayed what appeared to be an unusual capacity for warfare despite their technological limitations. Should we classify them as a threat level? Asked Ambassador Kretha, though her tone suggested she found the very question absurd. Threat level 0, Dr. Veltarn responded immediately. They pose no conceivable danger to any civilized species. Their weapons cannot penetrate modern armor. Their fastest transportation is animal-based, and they lack any form of energy manipulation or space travel capability. What about their population growth? Inquired Zixtal, scrolling through demographic data. Minimal concern. Their primitive medical knowledge keeps their numbers in check. Disease predators and their own violent tendencies maintain natural population control. Our projections suggest they will remain at this development level for at least another 10,000 years. Commander Olnex pulled up footage of humans attempting to hunt a mammoth. Look at this pathetic display, 20 of them with pointed sticks against one animal. In my military academy, a single cadet with basic equipment could eliminate their entire tribe. The chamber erupted in laughter again as they watched the chaotic hunt unfold. Several humans were trampled while others fled in terror. Even their successful kills seemed to require enormous effort and coordination for minimal results. What fascinates me, said Dr. Veltarn, adjusting his scientific instruments, is their persistence in the face of obvious futility. They continue fighting despite suffering significant casualties. It's almost as if they lack the intelligence to recognize when they're outmatched. Primitive stubbornness, dismissed Regent Mordex. Lower species often display such irrational behavior. It's why they remain primitive. The Council reviewed Earth's strategic value assessment. The planet contained moderate mineral resources, but nothing that couldn't be obtained more easily from uninhabited worlds. The humans themselves showed no signs of useful technology, artistic achievement, or intellectual development worth preserving. I move to classify Sol 3 as a Category 5 primitive world, announced Zixtal. No contact protocols, minimal monitoring, standard observation intervals of 50 Earth years. Seconded, agreed multiple voices simultaneously. All in favor? Every appendage, pseudopod, and mechanical digit raised in unanimous agreement. As the holographic display shut down, the assembled representatives began discussing the next items on their agenda: trade disputes between advanced civilizations, territorial negotiations, and plans for a new hyperspace corridor construction project. None of them paid any attention to the final images cycling through the Earth observation feed. Humans tending to their wounded with surprising gentleness, sharing food with the weak, creating art on cave walls that depicted not just their hunts but their dreams of flying among the stars. The surveillance equipment recorded children playing games that involved complex strategy, adults working together to solve engineering problems for their primitive but effective shelters, and young humans staring up at the night sky with expressions of wonder and curiosity. The translation software failed to capture the nuances in human language as they told stories around their fires, stories of heroes who never surrendered, of impossible victories against overwhelming odds, of ancestors who refused to bow to gods or monsters. The galactic powers saw only primitive violence where humans were actually developing something their advanced civilizations had lost long ago. Meeting adjourned, Zixtal announced. The humans will remain undisturbed in their primitive state. Frankly, I doubt we'll need to review their status again in our lifetimes. As representatives filed out of the chamber, heading back to their sophisticated starships and advanced civilizations, none suspected they had just made the most catastrophic underestimation in galactic history. The humans they dismissed as harmless Stone Age primitives were already showing signs of something that would eventually shake the foundations of every established power in the galaxy. On Earth, in caves scattered across continents, humans continued sharpening their spears, tending their fires and telling their stories. But in their primitive drawings and legends, themes were emerging that would have terrified the Council had they understood their significance. Themes of never surrendering, of fighting against impossible odds, and of a burning desire to reach beyond their world and touch the stars themselves. 10,000 Earth years passed like a single season to the long-lived species of the Galactic Council. The routine surveillance report for Sol 3 sat buried in Ambassador Zixtal's data queue, flagged as low priority and scheduled for automatic processing. When his assistant finally brought it to his attention, Zixtal expected the usual mundane update about primitive tribal movements and seasonal migration patterns. Instead, the data made him drop his ceremonial staff. "This cannot be accurate," he muttered, his crystalline breathing apparatus clouding with condensation from his rapid respiration. The holographic display showed a world transformed beyond recognition. Where once crude stone circles had marked human settlements, massive structures of worked stone now reached toward the sky. Pyramids, temples, and fortified cities sprawled across continents. But more disturbing than their architectural advancement was what the sensors detected within these structures. "Assistant, verify these energy readings immediately." "Verification complete, Ambassador. The readings are accurate. The humans have discovered metallurgy, mathematics, astronomy, and appear to have developed complex social organization." Zixtal stared at images of humans working bronze and iron, creating intricate weapons and tools that, while still primitive by galactic standards, represented an impossible leap forward. These weren't the same bumbling cave dwellers the Council had dismissed. These humans were building armies. Schedule an emergency council session. Priority Alpha. Within hours, representatives from across the galaxy had assembled via quantum communication links. The chamber hummed with confused chatter as the updated Earth surveillance data played before them. "How is this possible?" demanded Commander Ulnex, his scaled hide rippling with agitation. "Our evolutionary models predicted at least 50,000 more years before they achieved bronze working." Dr. Veltarn's multiple arms worked frantically at his analysis equipment. "It appears we fundamentally misunderstood their adaptive capabilities. Look at these warfare patterns." The display showed organized human armies moving in formation, wielding weapons of increasing sophistication. The footage was deeply unsettling. Human soldiers in bronze armor marched in perfect synchronization, their spear points glinting in sunlight. These weren't the chaotic tribal skirmishes they had observed before. This was disciplined military organization that spoke of strategic thinking and tactical evolution. "Note their population expansion," Dr. Veltarn continued, highlighting settlement patterns across Earth's surface. "They've spread to every habitable continent and adapted to environments from frozen tundras to burning deserts. This level of adaptability is unprecedented among primitive species." "Ambassador," Kreetha's six eyes focused intently on battle footage from what human historians would later call the Bronze Age. "Their combat effectiveness has increased exponentially. Watch this engagement." The hologram showed a human phalanx meeting a charge from armored cavalry. Instead of the expected route, the humans held formation, their spears creating an impenetrable wall. When the cavalry withdrew, the infantry advanced with mechanical precision, overwhelming their enemies through superior organization and unwavering determination. "This is impossible," whispered Regent Mordex. "Lower species lack the cognitive capacity for such complex military coordination." "Apparently not," Sixtel replied grimly. "Look at their siege warfare." The surveillance data showed humans constructing elaborate siege engines, catapults, battering rams, and siege towers that demonstrated sophisticated engineering principles. But what disturbed the galactic observers most wasn't the technology itself, but the relentless efficiency with which humans applied it. "They don't retreat," observed Commander Ulnex, studying footage of a prolonged siege. "Even when facing overwhelming casualties, they continue fighting until they achieve victory or complete annihilation." Dr. Veltarn pulled up casualty statistics that made the assembly fall silent. Human armies routinely suffered losses that would cause any civilized species to surrender. Yet they regrouped and resumed fighting with even greater intensity. "This behavior pattern is deeply disturbing," admitted Ambassador Kretha. "They seem to view death in battle as preferable to defeat." The holographic display shifted to show human religious ceremonies and burial practices. Warriors were entombed with their weapons, honored in elaborate rituals that glorified their final moments in combat. Art and poetry celebrated not those who lived comfortably, but those who died fighting against impossible odds. "They're not just adapting militarily," Dr. Veltarn noted with growing alarm. "They're developing a cultural framework that actively promotes warfare as a virtue. Look at these educational practices. Children as young as 5 years old trained with wooden weapons, learning formations and battle tactics alongside basic survival skills. Human societies were producing generation after generation of natural warriors, each more skilled and determined than the last." "What concerns me most," Zixtal said slowly, studying agricultural data, "is their resource utilization efficiency. They're supporting larger populations on smaller land areas, freeing up more individuals for military service." The numbers were staggering. Human military forces had grown from small tribal bands to organized armies numbering in the tens of thousands. And these weren't part-time fighters who occasionally picked up weapons. These were professional soldiers whose entire existence revolved around perfecting their ability to kill. "Recommendation?" asked Commander Ulnex. Dr. Veltarn worked through rapid calculations. "Their technological advancement rate has exceeded our models by a factor of 50. If this acceleration continues, they could achieve spaceflight within 5,000 years instead of 50,000. "Impossible. No species advances that rapidly." "This species does," Zixtal replied flatly. "The question is what we do about it." Regent Mordex's mechanical voice carried new undertones of concern. "They're still thousands of years from posing any real threat. Perhaps we should consider intervention before they develop further." "Intervention protocols require council approval and evidence of imminent danger," Ambassador Kretha reminded them. "They're still limited to their homeworld and primitive weapons." "Primitive weapons that are becoming less primitive with alarming speed," Zixtal countered. The assembly studied the data in uncomfortable silence. Humans had gone from Stone Age hunters to Bronze Age armies in what amounted to an evolutionary instant. Their capacity for warfare had increased geometrically, and their population growth showed no signs of slowing. "I'm upgrading their threat assessment to level 2, Dr. Veltarn announced, "and recommending increased monitoring intervals." "Agreed. Monitor them every 1,000 years instead of 50,000. As the emergency session concluded, none of the galactic representatives felt comfortable with their decision to maintain non-interference. The humans they were observing had transformed from amusing primitives into something that defied every model of species development. On Earth, in bronze foundries and military academies, humans continued their relentless advancement, driven by the same stubborn refusal to accept limitations that the galactic powers had dismissed as primitive stupidity. They were no longer just surviving. They were preparing to conquer. The emergency klaxon shattered the peaceful atmosphere of the Galactic Council chambers, its urgent wail forcing Ambassador Zixtal to abandon his morning meditation. As he rushed to the emergency assembly hall, his assistant transmitted the preliminary data that would change everything. Sir, you need to see the latest Earth surveillance immediately. The humans have achieved spaceflight. Zixtal's crystalline breathing apparatus nearly shattered from the shock. That's impossible. Our last assessment indicated they needed at least 3,000 more years. Sir, they didn't just achieve spaceflight. They weaponized it. The emergency session convened with unprecedented speed as representatives materialized via quantum link from across the galaxy. The holographic display activated to show images that defied comprehension. Sleek metal vessels breaking free from Earth's atmosphere. Primitive by galactic standards but undeniably functional spacecraft. How long since our last monitoring cycle? Demanded Commander Olnex. 1,000 Earth years as scheduled, replied Dr. Veltarn, his multiple arms trembling as they worked to process the incoming data. According to our models, they should have just discovered basic metallurgy. Instead, the surveillance footage showed a technological civilization that had compressed millennia of development into centuries. Humans had mastered electricity, combustion engines, electronics, and nuclear physics. Their cities sprawled across continents connected by networks of transportation that moved millions of individuals with mechanical precision. Show them the military assets, Zixtal ordered grimly. The display shifted to reveal Earth's military infrastructure, and the assembled representatives fell into shocked silence. Nuclear weapons capable of destroying entire continents, chemical weapons that could eliminate all organic life across vast areas, biological weapons engineered to target specific, genetic markers, but what truly terrified the galactic observers wasn't the weapons themselves, it was how humans had used them. They tested these devices on their own planet, Ambassador Kretha whispered, her 6 eyes blinking rapidly in disbelief. Multiple tests. They detonated nuclear weapons in populated areas to assess their effectiveness. Dr. Veltarn's voice carried undertones of horror that no advanced civilization could comprehend. They used biological weapons against their own species to study their effects. The footage showed mushroom clouds rising over human cities, followed by images of radiation-scorched landscapes and victims of chemical attacks. Any civilized species would have stopped immediately upon witnessing such devastation. Humans had instead improved their weapons and built more of them. They're completely insane, Regent Mordek stated flatly. No rational species would willingly destroy their own habitat. That's what makes them so dangerous, Zixtal replied. They're not rational by our standards. Watch their space program development. The surveillance data showed human space missions that violated every safety protocol imaginable. They strapped themselves to massive chemical rockets that had significant chances of explosion. They sent living beings into space before understanding the long-term effects of radiation and zero gravity. They accepted casualty rates that would cause any civilized species to abandon such endeavors entirely. Note their timeline, Dr. Veltarn added, highlighting key dates. From first powered flight to orbital spaceflight in 66 Earth years. From orbital flight to lunar landing in 8 years. They're progressing at an exponential rate that defies all evolutionary models. Commander Olnex studied footage of human soldiers in combat situations across Earth's surface. Their military efficiency has increased beyond our worst projections. Look at these engagement statistics. The data was sobering. Human armies now coordinated across entire continents, using electromagnetic communication networks. Their weapons could eliminate targets from distances measured in hundreds of kilometers. Their soldiers underwent training that would be considered torture by galactic standards. Yet they voluntarily subjected themselves to it in pursuit of combat effectiveness. They've also mastered psychological warfare, noted Ambassador Kretha, reviewing Earth's broadcast transmissions. They use their primitive entertainment media to condition their population to view violence and warfare as heroic. The holographic display showed human movies, books, and television programs that glorified military service and portrayed war as the ultimate test of character. Children grew up consuming stories of heroes who achieved victory through superior firepower and unwavering determination. What's their current military capability assessment? Asked Zixtal. Dr. Veltarn worked through rapid calculations. If they achieved interstellar travel tomorrow, they could pose a significant threat to any unprepared civilization. Their nuclear arsenal alone could sterilize a Class M planet, but they can't achieve interstellar travel for centuries, correct? According to our models, yes, but our models have been wrong about humans at every assessment point. Regent Mordex accessed additional data streams. What concerns me is their resource acquisition methods. They strip mine entire regions, drain underground water reserves, and clear-cut forests covering thousands of square kilometers. The surveillance footage showed massive human industrial operations that consumed natural resources at rates no sustainable civilization would consider. Yet instead of constraining their activities to preserve their environment, humans simply developed more efficient extraction methods and sought new sources. They're treating their home planet as expendable, observed Commander Ulnex. This suggests they're already planning to expand beyond Earth. Impossible. They lack faster-than-light travel capability. They also lacked spaceflight capability during our last assessment, Zixtal reminded them. I'm beginning to suspect we've fundamentally misunderstood this species from the beginning. Dr. Veltarn pulled up anthropological data that painted an even more disturbing picture. Look at their cultural evolution patterns. Every major technological advancement has been immediately weaponized. Nuclear physics led to nuclear weapons. Chemical research led to chemical weapons. Biological sciences led to biological weapons. What about their social organization? Asked Ambassador Kretha. They've maintained competitive nation-states that constantly prepare for warfare against each other. This perpetual conflict drives continuous innovation in weapons technology and military tactics. The assembled representatives studied the implications in uncomfortable silence. Humans had created a civilization-wide system that used conflict as an engine for advancement. Instead of cooperation leading to peace and stability, competition drove them to ever greater heights of destructive capability. Current threat assessment? Commander Ulnex inquired. I'm upgrading them to threat level 5, Dr. Veltarn announced. They pose a potential danger to galactic civilization if they achieve interstellar capability. Recommendations? Zixtal considered their options carefully. We initiate containment protocols. No interference, but we establish monitoring stations throughout their star system. If they show signs of achieving faster-than-light travel, we intervene. Intervention could violate the Primitive Species Protection Act, warned Ambassador Kretha. The Protection Act was designed for actual primitive species, not aggressive expansionist civilizations masquerading as primitives. As the emergency session concluded, every representative understood they were no longer dealing with harmless Stone Age hunters. Humans had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that combined advanced technology with primitive aggressive instincts. On Earth, in laboratories and military installations across the planet, humans continued their relentless push toward the stars, driven by the same insatiable curiosity and stubborn refusal to accept limitations that had carried them from caves to orbit in the cosmic equivalent of an instant. The quantum alarm system that protected the Sol system screamed its first warning at 0347, Galactic Standard Time. Commander Velnock of the U. Monitoring Station Arcturus 7 nearly spilled his biofluid as the proximity sensors detected an impossible reading. Sir, we have an unscheduled launch from Earth. Chemical propulsion signature consistent with human space technology. But the trajectory is completely wrong. Commander Velnock activated the long-range sensors, expecting to observe another primitive human satellite, or perhaps an early interplanetary probe headed toward their moon or Mars. Instead, the readings made his respiratory organs seize in panic. That craft is achieving escape velocity from the solar system. Impossible, sir. Human technology cannot sustain interstellar flight. Tell that to the ship that's already reaching 0.7 light speed. Within minutes, emergency transmissions flooded the quantum communication networks. Monitoring stations throughout the outer rim reported the same incomprehensible data. A human spacecraft traveling at relativistic speeds, heading directly toward the Proxima Centauri system. At Galactic Council headquarters, Ambassador Zixtal received the priority alert while reviewing routine trade agreements. The message was brief and terrifying. Human vessel achieved faster-than-light capability. Interstellar expansion has begun. Assemble the Crisis Council immediately. Zixtal ordered his assistant. Authorization code Omega Black. The Crisis Council convened within hours, bringing together the galaxy's most experienced military and scientific minds. The holographic display showed real-time tracking data of humanity's first interstellar vessel. Its trajectory confirmed and its destination clear. How? Demanded Admiral Krektar of the Hegemony Defense Force. Our Intelligence indicated they needed at least 500 more years to develop FTL technology. Dr. Veltarn's analysis equipment worked frantically to process the incoming data. It appears they didn't develop traditional faster-than-light travel. They've created something entirely different. The surveillance footage from Earth revealed the shocking truth. Instead of developing the gradual technological progression that characterized every other spacefaring civilization, humans had taken their typical approach. They had weaponized physics itself. They call it an Alcubierre drive, Dr. Veltarn explained, his voice carrying undertones of professional admiration mixed with existential terror. Instead of moving through space, they're manipulating space-time to move space around their vessel. That's impossible. The energy requirements would be astronomical. They're using controlled nuclear fusion as a power source, hundreds of nuclear reactors contained within a single ship. Admiral Krektar studied the technical readouts with growing alarm. No sane species would put that much nuclear material in a spacecraft. One containment failure would destroy everything within light years. Exactly, replied Zixtal grimly. Humans aren't sane by our standards. They're willing to accept risks that we would consider suicidal. The tracking data showed the human vessel continuing its journey toward Proxima Centauri, where a peaceful colony of Melody researchers had been studying stellar phenomena for the past 3 centuries. The Melody were a gentle species, completely unprepared for contact with an aggressive civilization. What are the Melody colony's defensive capabilities? Asked Admiral Krektar. None, Ambassador Kretha replied, her 6 eyes dimming with worry. They're scientific researchers. Their settlement isn't even shielded against radiation, much less hostile contact. Dr. Veltarn accessed Earth's communication networks to intercept human transmissions about the mission. What he found confirmed their worst fears about human intentions. Listen to this transmission from their mission commander, he said, activating the audio feed. A human voice filled the chamber, speaking in clipped, militaristic tones that sent chills through the assembled representatives. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Determination. Mission parameters confirmed. We're carrying full complement of nuclear weapons and orbital bombardment capability. If we encounter hostile alien civilizations, we are authorized to use any means necessary to secure human expansion rights. The chamber fell into horrified silence. The primitive Stone Age hunters they had dismissed millennia ago were now crossing interstellar space armed with weapons of mass destruction, prepared to eliminate any opposition to their expansion. They're not exploring, whispered Commander Olnex. They're conquering. Admiral Krektar activated the Hegemony military communication network. I'm authorizing immediate deployment of Defense Fleet 7 to the Proxima system. We need to intercept that ship before it reaches the Melody colony. Wait, interrupted Zixtal. We need to consider the implications carefully. If we destroy their ship, we reveal our existence and capabilities. Humans will know they're not alone in the galaxy. If we don't destroy their ship, peaceful researchers die and humans establish their first interstellar colony, Admiral Krektar countered. That colony becomes a staging ground for further expansion. Dr. Veltarn had been analyzing human military doctrine during their global conflicts. According to their historical patterns, humans don't just conquer territory. They study their enemy's technology and adapt it for their own use. If they capture Melody research equipment, they could reverse engineer our technology, finished Commander Olnex, accelerating their development by centuries. The strategic implications were staggering. Humans had progressed from stone tools to interstellar flight in what amounted to an instant, by galactic standards. If they gained access to advanced alien technology, they could become a galactic power within decades instead of millennia. What's the status of Defense Fleet 7? Asked Zixtal. 3 days from intercept position, replied Admiral Krektar. But sir, there's something else. Our deep space sensors are detecting additional launch signatures from Earth. The holographic display updated to show multiple human vessels departing Earth's orbital shipyards. Not one experimental craft, but an entire fleet of interstellar ships heading toward different star systems. They're not just sending an exploration mission, Dr. Veltarn realized with growing horror. They're launching a coordinated expansion campaign. The tracking data revealed human ships bound for Wolf 359, Barnard Star, and half a dozen other nearby systems. Each vessel carried the same nuclear arsenal and military configuration as the first. Humans weren't exploring the galaxy, they were invading it. Emergency authorization required, Admiral Krektar announced. I'm recommending immediate military intervention. Destroy all human interstellar vessels and establish a quarantine around the Sol system. Seconded, agreed multiple voices simultaneously. Opposition? Asked Zixtal. Ambassador Kretha raised a tentative appendage. What if we attempt diplomatic contact first? Perhaps humans can be reasoned with. Dr. Veltarn displayed human responses to diplomatic contact throughout their history. Their standard approach to first contact with unknown civilizations has been immediate military action. They shoot first and ask questions later. All in favor of military intervention? Every representative indicated agreement except Ambassador Kretha, who abstained. Authorization granted. Engage and destroy all human interstellar vessels. Establish Sol system quarantine immediately. As Admiral Krektar transmitted orders to defense fleets throughout the Outer Rim, none of the assembled representatives realized they had just declared war on the most dangerous species in galactic history. The humans they were about to engage had spent their entire evolutionary development perfecting the art of warfare against impossible odds. On Earth, in command centers buried deep beneath continental shields, human military planners tracked their interstellar fleet's progress and prepared for exactly the response they expected from whatever alien civilizations controlled the galaxy. They had always assumed they weren't alone, and they had planned accordingly. Admiral Krektar's flagship, the Sovereign Justice, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system, expecting to find a primitive human vessel wandering helplessly through space. Instead, his tactical sensors immediately screamed warnings about multiple high-energy contacts and weapon signatures that shouldn't exist. Sir, the human ship has established orbit around Proxima Centauri b and deployed what appears to be a defensive perimeter, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Vexion. I'm reading at least 40 separate craft. Impossible. Our intelligence indicated they launched one ship. Sir, it appears that one ship contained multiple smaller vessels. They've established what looks like a military staging area. Admiral Krektar studied the tactical display in growing disbelief. The human vessel had somehow transported and deployed an entire fleet of smaller craft, each broadcasting energy signatures that indicated significant weapons capability. This wasn't exploration. It was a military occupation. What's the status of the Melody Research Station? Lieutenant Vexion worked frantically at his sensor array before responding with obvious shock. Sir, the research station is intact, but I'm detecting Melody life signs aboard several human vessels. They've taken hostages? Unknown, sir. But wait, I'm receiving a transmission. It's in perfect galactic standard. Admiral Krektar authorized the communication link, expecting to hear demands or threats from the human commander. Instead, a calm female voice filled the bridge with words that chilled his circulatory system. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Starship Determination. Admiral Krektar, we've been expecting you. How do you know my name? We've been monitoring your communications for the past 72 hours. We know about Defense Fleet 7, the quarantine authorization, and the Galactic Council's decision to destroy our interstellar vessels. Dr. Thelnara of the Melody Research Station has been very helpful in explaining your political structure, Admiral. Krektar's tactical training screamed warnings as he realized the implications. You forced the Melody to provide intelligence. Forced? Admiral, Dr. Thelnara and her research team have been extremely cooperative. In fact, they've agreed to work with us in exchange for protection from your intervention. The communication screen activated to show the interior of the human command vessel, where Admiral Krektar could see Melody researchers working alongside human technicians at advanced control stations. The researchers appeared unharmed, but their presence aboard human ships revealed a disturbing truth. You see, Admiral, Captain Chen continued, we've learned some interesting things about galactic politics. The Melody have been monitoring your council's transmissions about humanity for millennia. They know you classified us as a threat to be contained or eliminated. Dr. Thelnara, the lead Melody researcher, appeared on screen beside Captain Chen. Admiral Krektar, I must protest the council's decision. These humans have not threatened us. They've offered to share their scientific knowledge and provide mutual defense agreements. Admiral Krektar felt his strategic situation deteriorating rapidly. The humans had not only achieved interstellar flight, they had immediately begun forming alliances with other species. Worse, they had turned the Council's own containment policies into a recruitment tool. Captain Chen, You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately and return to Earth. I'm afraid that's not possible, Admiral. We've established our first colony on Proxima B, and we've signed mutual defense treaties with the local Melody population. Any attack on our ships would constitute an act of war against a sovereign human Melody alliance. Lieutenant Vexion urgently signaled for Admiral Krektar's attention. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy buildups from the human vessels. They're powering weapon systems. The tactical display showed human ships deploying in defensive formations that demonstrated sophisticated military planning. But what alarmed Admiral Krektar most was the technology readings. Human weapons were somehow operating at energy levels that should have been impossible with their primitive nuclear technology. Captain Chen, how are you generating those power levels? Oh, that. Dr. Thelnara and her team have been very educational about antimatter containment techniques. We've implemented some improvements to our reactor systems. Admiral Krektar realized with growing horror that humans had reverse-engineered alien technology in a matter of days. The Melody Research Station contained experimental antimatter generation equipment that had taken galactic civilizations centuries to develop. Humans had apparently studied it, understood it, and integrated it into their weapon systems. Sir, Lieutenant Vexion reported with obvious panic, our sensor analysis indicates human weapons are now capable of penetrating our defensive shields. How is that possible? Captain Chen's voice carried undertones of satisfaction. Admiral, your shields are designed to deflect energy weapons and kinetic projectiles. They're not designed to handle controlled antimatter explosions delivered by relativistic kinetic impactors. The humans had weaponized their transportation technology. Their ships could accelerate small projectiles to near light speed and deliver them with antimatter warheads that would bypass every defensive system in the galactic arsenal. You're bluffing. No species would risk antimatter weapons in close proximity to inhabited planets. Admiral, we tested nuclear weapons on our own cities to understand their effects. Do you really think antimatter concerns us? The communication screen showed additional displays from human vessels throughout the Proxima system. They had established mining operations on asteroids, construction facilities in orbit, and defensive installations on multiple planets. In the time it had taken Defense Fleet 7 to reach the system, humans had built an entire military infrastructure. This is your final warning. Captain Chen, withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Admiral, I think you misunderstand the situation. You brought 12 ships to threaten 40 human vessels equipped with antimatter weapons and crewed by the most experienced warriors in the galaxy. You're outgunned, outmaneuvered, and out of time. Lieutenant Vexion's sensor readings confirmed the tactical nightmare. Human ships had surrounded Defense Fleet 7 using gravitational slingshot maneuvers around Proxima Centauri itself. They had used the star's gravity to achieve impossible positioning while concealing their movements from galactic sensors. Sir, we're completely surrounded. They've been herding us into this position since we dropped out of hyperspace. Admiral Krektar faced an impossible choice. He could engage human vessels and almost certainly lose his entire fleet, or he could retreat and report that humanity had successfully established its first interstellar colony, despite galactic intervention. Admiral, Captain Chen continued, we're prepared to offer you a face-saving withdrawal. Return to the Council and inform them that humanity is open to diplomatic relations. We have no interest in conflict with peaceful civilizations, and if the Council refuses diplomatic contact, then you'll discover why humans have never lost a war when our survival was at stake. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Krektar staring at tactical displays that showed human vessels maintaining perfect defensive positions while apparently preparing for expanded construction operations. They weren't retreating or negotiating, they were consolidating their conquest. Sir, orders? Admiral Krektar studied the tactical situation one final time before making the most difficult decision of his military career. Signal the fleet. We're withdrawing to minimum safe distance and establishing a monitoring perimeter. No hostile action unless fired upon. Sir? Lieutenant, we're not equipped to fight this war. We need to report back to the Council that everything we thought we knew about humans was wrong. As Defense Fleet 7 withdrew to establish a cautious perimeter around the Proxima system, Admiral Krektar drafted the most terrifying military assessment in galactic history. The Stone Age primitives had become the most dangerous military force in known space, and they had only just begun their expansion. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos as Admiral Krektar's report spread throughout the chamber. Representatives who had dismissed humans as primitive Stone Age creatures now faced the reality that those same humans had defeated a modern galactic defense fleet without firing a shot. "This is impossible," declared Commander Ulnex, his scaled hide rippling with agitation. "A single primitive species cannot outmaneuver our most experienced military commander. Tell that to Admiral Krektar's 12 ships sitting helplessly on the edge of the Proxima system," replied Ambassador Zixtal grimly. "The humans have established permanent colonies on 3 worlds and are expanding their territory daily." Dr. Veltarn worked frantically at his analysis stations, processing intelligence reports that defied every model of species development. They've established colonies in 7 star systems within 6 months. Their expansion rate is exponential. The holographic display showed the terrifying scope of human expansion. Red indicators marked new human settlements throughout the local spiral arm, each colony fortified with antimatter weapons and defended by increasingly sophisticated military technology. "How many ships are they launching?" asked Ambassador Kretha, her 6 eyes focused intently on the tactical display. "Our estimates suggest they're completing 1 interstellar vessel every Earth week," Dr. Veltarn responded. "But more disturbing is their technology acquisition rate. Every species they encounter contributes knowledge that they immediately weaponize." The intelligence reports painted a picture of human expansion that violated every precedent in galactic history. Instead of gradual exploration and peaceful contact, humans approached each new system with overwhelming military force, established defensive positions, then offered alliance terms that species found impossible to refuse. "Show them the Rigel incident," ordered Zixtal. The holographic display shifted to surveillance footage from the Rigel system, where a human fleet had encountered a heavily fortified Vorthak military outpost. Instead of the expected defeat, the footage showed human ships using tactics that no civilized military would consider. "They used their own ships as kinetic weapons," observed Commander Ulnex with obvious horror. "Ramming attacks at relativistic speeds." "Effective ramming attacks," corrected Dr. Veltarn. "They destroyed a Vorthak battle station that had defended that system for 3 centuries. The footage showed human vessels accelerating to near-light speed and deliberately colliding with Vorthak defensive installations. The pilots died instantly, but their sacrifice eliminated fortifications that conventional weapons couldn't penetrate. This is insane behavior," declared Regent Mordex. "No rational species accepts such casualty." "Rates, rational by whose standards?" Zixtal asked pointedly. "Human military doctrine considers these acceptable losses if they achieve strategic objectives." Ambassador Kretha studied reports from the aftermath of human conquests. "What disturbs me most is their post-victory behavior. They don't enslave conquered populations or strip resources. They offer alliance terms that many species find attractive." The intelligence data confirmed this pattern throughout human-occupied space. Conquered civilizations were offered technological exchange, mutual defense treaties, and shared colonial development. Many species found human alliance terms more favorable than previous arrangements with the Galactic Council. "They're not just conquering," realized Dr. Veltarn. "They're building a rival power structure. Look at their economic networks." The display showed trade routes and resource flows throughout human space. Instead of extracting wealth for Earth's benefit, humans had established interconnected economies that benefited all alliance members. Species that had struggled under Council trade restrictions now prospered under human protection. "This is deliberate," observed Commander Ulnex. "They studied our political structure and designed an alternative that appeals to dissatisfied populations." The strategic implications were staggering. Humans weren't just expanding through military conquest. They were offering better governance than the established galactic order. Species that had accepted Council authority for millennia were voluntarily switching sides. "Current military assessment?" asked Zixtal. Admiral Krektar's voice carried through the quantum communication link from his flagship. "Sir, human military capability has surpassed our projections by orders of magnitude. They've reverse-engineered our technology, improved upon it, and mass-produced weapon systems that exceed our defensive capabilities." "What about their numbers?" "Intelligence suggests they're recruiting volunteers from allied species. Human fleets now include crews from dozens of different civilizations, all trained in human tactical doctrine." Dr. Veltarn pulled up population statistics that made the assembly fall silent. Human space now encompasses 47 star systems with a total population exceeding 12 billion individuals from 36 different species. They've become a galactic power in less than one standard year, whispered Ambassador Kretha. The holographic display updated with real-time intelligence showing human fleets approaching the outer territories of several council member civilizations. Unlike their previous expansion, these movements appeared coordinated and purposeful. Sir, Admiral Krektar reported urgently, we're detecting massive human fleet movements toward Core Sector 7. They appear to be massing for a major operation. Core Sector 7 contained the hegemony's primary industrial worlds, defended by the most powerful military installations in galactic space. If humans were moving against such heavily fortified targets, their capabilities had exceeded every worst-case scenario. Estimated human fleet strength? Asked Commander Olnex. Over 300 vessels, sir. Many of them exceed our largest battleships in terms of firepower and defensive capability. The chamber fell into stunned silence as representatives grappled with the reality that the primitive Stone Age species they had dismissed now fielded a military force larger than most galactic civilizations. They're not coming to negotiate, Zixtal realized. They're coming to replace us. Dr. Veltarn's analysis confirmed the worst fears. Human expansion patterns suggest they intend to absorb the entire galactic civilization structure. They're not seeking coexistence. They're implementing systematic replacement of our political order. Recommendations? Asked Commander Olnex. We have 3 options, Admiral Krektar replied. Full military mobilization for total war, surrender and hope for favorable alliance terms, or diplomatic contact to negotiate our survival. You said diplomatic contact. Are humans willing to negotiate? Sir, they've transmitted a formal message to the Council. Captain Sarah Chen, now apparently promoted to Admiral of the Human Colonial Fleet, has requested a formal diplomatic meeting. The transmission activated to show Admiral Chen aboard what appeared to be a massive command ship, surrounded by human and alien crew members, working together at advanced control stations. Honorable representatives of the Galactic Council, Admiral Chen began, her voice carrying the confidence of absolute victory. Humanity formally requests diplomatic recognition of our territorial claims and alliance structure. We propose a peaceful transition to shared galactic governance. Shared governance? Zixtal asked incredulously. The current galactic order has failed to provide security and prosperity for many species. We offer an alternative based on mutual defense, technological exchange, and economic cooperation. Those who join our alliance benefit from our protection and advancement, and those who refuse. Admiral Chen's expression remained neutral, but her words carried unmistakable implications. We hope all civilized species will recognize the benefits of cooperation. History suggests that isolation becomes increasingly difficult as the galaxy evolves. The transmission ended, leaving the Council representatives to contemplate an impossible choice: negotiate with the species they had once planned to exterminate, or face the military might of the most dangerous civilization in galactic history. The neutral meeting ground chosen for first formal diplomatic contact was a remote space station in the neutral zone, equidistant from human and Council territories. Ambassador Zixtal led the Galactic Council delegation aboard his diplomatic vessel, surrounded by the most advanced defensive technology their civilization could provide. He still felt completely vulnerable. The human diplomatic ship that docked with the station defied every expectation. Instead of the crude, weapons-bristling warship the Council representatives anticipated, they found themselves greeting guests from an elegant vessel, whose design incorporated aesthetic elements from dozens of different alien cultures. Admiral Sarah Chen walked through the airlock accompanied by a diverse entourage that included humans, Melody scientists, former Vorthak military officers, and species the Council didn't immediately recognize. She wore a simple uniform that bore insignia representing the Human Alliance, a complex symbol that somehow harmonized design elements from every member civilization. Ambassador Zixtal, Admiral Chen greeted him in perfect galactic standard. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I believe we have much to discuss. Zixtal studied the human leader who had reshaped galactic civilization in less than 2 years. She appeared physically unremarkable by galactic standards. a bipedal mammal of average height with no obvious natural weapons or exceptional attributes. Yet she commanded the loyalty of billions and had defeated every military force sent against her. Admiral Chen, I confess we find ourselves in unprecedented circumstances. The Council has existed for over 50,000 years without facing a challenge of this magnitude. Challenges often create opportunities, Admiral Chen replied as she took her seat at the negotiating table. We're not here to destroy the Council. We're here to evolve it. Dr. Veltarn activated his recording equipment to document the proceedings. Admiral, your expansion rate has destabilized the entire galactic political structure. 12 Council member civilizations have already switched allegiance to your alliance. Because we offer better terms, responded Dr. Thelnara, the Melody researcher who now served as the Alliance's chief science officer. The Council's technological restrictions and trade limitations kept our civilization stagnant for millennia. Under human partnership, we've advanced our science by centuries. Commander Ulnek shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Your military expansion has been decidedly aggressive. 7 Council worlds have fallen under human occupation. Occupation? Admiral Chen appeared genuinely puzzled. Commander, we prefer the term liberation. Ask the populations of those worlds whether they want to return to Council control. The uncomfortable truth was that Council intelligence agencies had already conducted those surveys. Human-occupied worlds reported higher living standards, greater technological advancement, and increased personal freedoms compared to their previous existence under Council governance. Your alliance structure is unsustainable, argued Ambassador Kretha. You're promising technological advancement and military protection to dozens of species simultaneously. No civilization can maintain such commitments. Ambassador, you're thinking in terms of traditional galactic politics, Admiral Chen explained patiently. The alliance isn't built on dominance and resource extraction. It's built on synergy and mutual advancement. She activated a holographic display showing the economic and technological networks throughout alliance space. Each species contributes their expertise while benefiting from everyone else's knowledge. Melody theoretical physics, Forthak engineering, human adaptability and military doctrine, combined. We achieve more than any of us could accomplish alone. Dr. Veltarn studied the data with professional interest. Your technological advancement rate is indeed unprecedented, but surely this expansion cannot continue indefinitely. Why not? Asked Admiral Chen. The galaxy contains hundreds of civilizations. Most struggle under political systems that stifle innovation and limit growth. We offer an alternative that benefits everyone. Regent Mordex's mechanical voice carried undertones of skepticism. Your human nature remains fundamentally aggressive. History suggests you will eventually turn your weapons against your current allies. The response came not from Admiral Chen, but from General Kexthal, a former Vorthak military commander who now wore Alliance insignia. Regent Mordex, I fought against humans during the Rigel campaign. I expected them to execute prisoners and strip our worlds for resources, and instead, they offered medical treatment for our wounded, technical assistance for our colonies, and alliance terms that preserved our cultural autonomy while providing military protection. I've served under both systems. The alliance is superior. Ambassador Zixtal realized the Council faced a strategic impossibility. They couldn't match human military capability, couldn't offer better terms than the alliance, and couldn't convince their own member species that Council governance was preferable to human partnership. Admiral Chen, what exactly are you proposing? Integration, she replied simply. The Council structure has valuable features. Your diplomatic protocols, legal frameworks, and institutional knowledge could benefit the alliance. We propose merging our governments into a unified galactic administration, under human control, under alliance control. Humans currently hold leadership positions because we initiated the expansion, but governance would be proportional to member contributions. Council species that join the alliance would receive representation based on their populations, resources, and capabilities. Dr. Veltarn worked through rapid calculations that would make humans a minority within the combined government structure. Exactly. We're not seeking to rule the galaxy. We're seeking to improve it. Commander Ulnek studied the proposal with growing disbelief. You're offering to limit your own power in exchange for peaceful integration? Commander, power without legitimacy is unstable. We want to build something that lasts millennia, not decades. That requires willing cooperation from the existing galactic order. The negotiation continued for hours as Alliance representatives outlined their integration proposal. Council species could maintain their territories and cultural autonomy while gaining access to Alliance technology, trade networks, and military protection. The combined government would operate under modified council procedures with expanded representation and democratic selection of leadership positions. What guarantees do we have that humans won't eventually dominate this structure? Asked Ambassador Krethaw. Admiral Chen smiled, revealing an expression that somehow conveyed both confidence and humility. Ambassador, you've spent years studying human nature and warning about our aggressive tendencies. Let me ask you something. Have we ever been conquered? No, of course not. Then why would we accept domination by others? If humans ever abuse Alliance governance, other species can leave. We succeed only if our partners choose to stay. The simple logic was undeniable. The Alliance had to remain beneficial to its members or it would collapse. Unlike traditional galactic empires built on conquest and resource extraction, the human system required genuine cooperation to survive. Council recess for deliberation? Suggested Zixtal, of course. Take all the time you need. As council representatives withdrew to discuss the proposal, none could ignore the fundamental shift in galactic power. The Stone Age primitives they had dismissed millennia ago had not only achieved spaceflight and conquered dozens of star systems, they had built a political structure that offered better governance than civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. In the end, the choice was simple: join the Alliance and help shape the new galactic order, or face irrelevance as their member species voluntarily switched to human partnership. 6 months later, the formal integration ceremony took place on Earth, where representatives from across the galaxy gathered to establish the unified Galactic Alliance. Ambassador Zixtal, now serving as the Alliance's chief diplomatic officer, stood beside Admiral Chen as they watched hundreds of species celebrating their shared future. You know, Zixtal commented quietly, when we first observed humans, we thought you were just primitive hunters with stone weapons. Admiral Chen looked up at the stars visible through the ceremony hall's transparent dome, where thousands of Alliance ships from dozens of species patrolled the space lanes. Together, Ambassador, she replied with the same stubborn determination that had carried humanity from caves to galactic dominance. We never stopped hunting. We just found bigger prey.